I introduce myself. I'm Dr. Docteur Lemaire. I'm dental surgeon. I live on the French Riviera, and I practice hypnosis since 25 years now. I teach hypnosis at the university. We have created 10 years ago with 𝒍'𝒉𝒚𝒑𝒏𝒐𝒔𝒆, another dentist, postgraduate in dental hypnosis. So it trains students to practice medical hypnosis mostly and a little bit therapeutic. And also I have a private institute to teach medical hypnosis. It's called, I don't know, 𝒍'𝒉𝒚𝒂𝒊𝒓𝒆 Hypnosis Institute. And I've created also a society of dental hypnosis in French to promote it for the profession. I think I could have speak in German. Ich habe Deutsch gelernt, aber ich kann nicht mehr sprechen. And I was remembering just die Lorelei. So it's not enough to make a full conference in German.
You're better than me for sure.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about history of dental hypnosis. I know that the title is not glamorous because history, people say, oh, it's going to be boring, but I have a great passion for history because it's the story and it tells us symbols, metaphor, and many things that make us know a lot of things about our profession and especially about hypnosis. So we're going to keep it very practical and make a lot of induction. I've written a book about history of hypnosis 5 years ago. It's in French, unfortunately. And I was fascinated by this idea developed by Bernard de Chartres. He said we are just dwarfs on the shoulders of giants. It means that we must study the work of our predecessor to not reinvent the wheel at each generation, but to take part of their consideration. Because hypnosis, you know, is a very strange discipline. It's between science and art. So we must study it scientifically with actual, I would say, proof and articles and study, but we must practice it very humanly with like an heart, okay? And when we study history of hypnosis, it's like, unfortunately, my go is not here because he would have known what this is. This is the Loch Ness. This is Nessie. And hypnosis is like a sea monster because it appears and disappears sometimes in the country according to the cultural, to the medical, and to the spiritual also, things that are allowed or forbidden. So it's very fascinating to study history of hypnosis. And history of dental hypnosis is a very narrow and specific field of dental specialty. You see 3 different pictures. This one on the left is the first picture of the first man who extracted a tooth, Dr. Ude, with mesmerism. Then we have a demonstration of Dr. Ralph Dillon of Chicago. And then another one is making hypnosis with a candle, okay, and a tooth is extracted under mesmerism. So there's a lot of things about dental hypnosis, a lot of, I would say, books and newspapers, but it's going to be very tricky to find good information, in fact. So we're going to make, I'm going to explain you the history of dental hypnosis, but we're going to make historical induction because it's more funny, okay? And with historical induction, we'll understand how they understood the trance, how they understood mesmerism, hypnosis. There's a joke at the beginning of the 20th who say that painless dentistry was only painless for the dentist. And here is an historical movie. It's mute, so there's no sound. And it's fake. What I mean, it's a film, okay? There's actor. But it gives us an idea of, according to the material that they have, how could they, for example, extract a teeth. So this thing is a very strange instrument. So you see the patient is totally relaxed. I saw this those instruments at the Museum of Dental Medicine in Paris. And he's extracting the teeth. He's making a sort of magical trick, you know, to make the teeth. So we see that, yeah, no blood, wonderful. So the first one, of course, is Franz Anton Mesmer, okay? When we study history of hypnosis generally, there's a lot of description of trends, historical trends, in ancient Egypt, in Greece, in Middle Age. But the start of the medical hypnosis is Mesmer. And Mesmer starts in France, you know, not in France, but in Vienna at the beginning, but then it came in France. And there's a movie about mesmerism. It's called Mesmer with Alan Rickman. It's not such a good movie, but it gave us maybe a little bit the idea of what could have made Mesmer and how could it be. So he was like a mysterious man, you know, he was dressed in purple, and when he was making mesmerism, he had a special room for that in a private hotel in France, in Paris. And Mesmer is a very smart guy, he's a very clever man, and he understood all the ingredients of hypnosis. But his belief was the magnetism, animal magnetism. So this is what we call the baquet, and I'll talk about this. All the people were around the baquet. He had a strange voice, the hypnotic voice, and also a guy was playing a strange instrument called glass harmonica, which was forbidden by the king a little bit later, because say that it creates madness and historical trends.
Old woman.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, Mesmer was, he discovered that the power of trance is that trance is contagious, you know. You see it in stage hypnosis. So when someone falls in trance, it gives suggestion for the other one. I think it's a little bit exaggerated. It's for the movie. Anyway, we have a lot of description of mesmerism, especially coming from the Royal Commission, because it was investigated in a medical way. So, he found a lot of ingredients. He understood that in hypnosis, what's important is the frame and the attitude. The frame is why the patient will go in trance. Is it for medical reason? Is it for entertainment in medical hypnosis? And the attitude is to guide you in the trance. That's the attitude, the posture of the operator. He was also a smart and clever guy, because when we saw the baquette, it's in France, in Lyon, at the Museum of Medicine. And when the Royal Commission came to investigate, they saw that they found in the baquette only water, only iron, and only broken pieces of glass, you know. And in fact, Mesmer, when he saw that the Royal Commission was coming, and the Royal Commission was made by Benjamin Franklin, Lavoisier, all the most scientific, the top scientific guy in that generation. And Mesmer was a very smart guy, because he took the idea, it was the beginning of electricity at the 18th century, and he invented bottle of Leyde. It's the ancestor of battery. So in his bucket, he had created a lot of bottle of Leyde. So when the people were touching the iron bar, it gives electrical shock. And that's very clever because he's the best convincer that there is magnetism. And as they were all linked together, this electricity goes from one to the other. When the Royal Commission investigated, he broke everything inside, not them to know his secret. It was one of his tricks, but he had a lot of other tricks. But anyway, his idea was that there was an animal magnetism. He called it animal magnetism just to make the difference between the animal magnetism and the mineral magnetism, which was linked to the stone. And he say, at the beginning he was using iron magnetism. But say I have a fluid coming from my hands, and this fluid can be propagated on the patient, and it gives effect for healing. Okay? In fact, he discovered a lot of things on the trance. And usually I say that there's difference between mesmerism and hypnotism. When you make mesmerism for the patient, you give the authority to the healer. And when you make hypnotism, it's the contrary. You give authority to the patient to guide him in his trance, to discover his own resource for recovering and healing. But ingredients are the same, you know. You activate the imagination in order to make the trance. At the beginning of history of dental hypnosis, it started with Mesmer in France, and the first one was Houdet, Docteur Houdet. It was in 1836, okay, and first teeth extracted under mesmerism. The Royal Commission, with Benjamin Franklin, investigate the magnetism and say, imagination without magnetism produce convulsion, and magnetism without imagination produce nothing. What's interesting is that this commission was very scientific. It didn't study the recovery or the healing. It was just studying if there was a fluid coming from the ends. But they missed something because they discovered the power of imagination, but they say they made no research after that. It was the discovery of the psychosomatic medicine, but imagination for them was just a fantasy, and they didn't realize that it had such a power. Then mesmerism becomes, as this Royal Commission decreased in France. As we saw, we had a lot of caricature from Mesmer. He was like the mesmerists at the end of the 18th century were considered like donkey, you know. There were a lot of caricature and a lot of theatrical pieces that show that they didn't do anything. And then it disappeared in France, then it goes a little bit in Germany, and then it disappears, and then it came back in England. And in England, we have what we call the Britannic trio, which is Esdale, Braille, and Elliotson. And the first one was Elliotson. He was the first one to use mesmerism and to bring mesmerism in the medical field, because he was a renowned professor at the faculty, and he saw demonstration in the street, and he learned mesmerism from a French guy called Baron Dupotet, and he wanted to try it on his patient. And he was an incredible guy. He wrote a book, he wrote a review called The Zoists, And there is 13 volumes. Each volume is like 600 pages. And in these books, the Zoist, in this review, in fact, we have a lot of report of tooth extracted under mesmerism, almost 12. At the same time, in India, James Esdale, everyone know about the Esdale state and stuff like this, he was the early pioneer of hypnotic technique. He made a lot of surgical operation in India with hypno anesthesia. And he makes report in his book, Mesmerism in India, and there's another one which is more interesting. It's called Clairvoyance in Mesmerism. He described also tooth extraction. I think there's 3 tooth extraction. And, teeth extracted, 3. And also tumor extracted from jaw. Okay. We had his clinical description of how he was making mesmerism. And so he took the patient, he was making mesmerism passes, okay, during hours, sometimes during days. And so he had operator to replace him because it was so long and so boring that he couldn't make it during a... And sometimes for some patients, it took him almost 2 weeks. And then he checked that the patient didn't feel anything. And then he started the operation. That's a very interesting report. And when he came back, because he was in India during 20 years, and he was sent to the Indian company. And when he came back in England with all his medical reports, we said him 2 things. First, that the patient, as they were Indian, were pretending. They had no pain. And then we said that only God can decide the pain. So he was just a surgeon, so he couldn't decide which patient should suffer. But what's interesting, and we must keep in mind that in animal magnetism, we don't talk. We don't give verbal suggestion. That's interesting. That's the first thing. You just induce the trance with non-verbal hypnosis. And then with non-verbal hypnosis, you can have anesthesia. It can work also, but it's so long that we make hypnosis faster because we can make suggestion for anesthesia. And you see a guy with a needle through the arm. Here is another, I think the first historical photography, picture of dental extraction with mesmerism. The guy is behind, he's guiding the patient in his trance, he's making passes and stuff like this, and the dentist is working, and there's a lot of spectators. I was very interested because in the history of medicine, there used to be a lot of people that were assisting the surgery. That's crazy. Especially in England, you can visit in the museum. There's a sort of small theater, and the surgery were public, you know. And there was no anesthesia, so the guy was on the table, he was linked, and then the surgeon came and he made his surgery as fast as he can. That's crazy. So it's non-verbal hypnosis. Hello. Non-verbal hypnosis is how to make hypnosis with just without a word, being mute. And that's interesting to learn from this early practitioner because we can learn a lot of technique that we can use in our office. And I'll show you. We know from the work of Albert Mehrabian that a part of the communication is non-verbal, and it's the body language. It's the conscious level. I think in an unconscious level, it's more effective, and it's more than 55. I would say that's 70. So, who wants to be my first partner for the mesmeric induction? Yeah, okay. Come in. Who knows about mesmeric inductions? Yeah, great. So we have a lot of description of mesmeric induction. We can make paces, we can make fixation, we can make a lot of things. So we're going to make something very simple and very easy. Okay. Great. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. So I explain you the technique. This is very simple. Mesmerism say first we must establish what we call the rapport. The rapport is to create, I would say, non-verbal communication. For that, you just give the hand to the patient. It's non-verbal communication because each time I do this, do that. It's like the same if I do this. I can make it 10 times, she's going to make it because it's a pattern that we learn. So when someone gives you his hand, then mesmerism say, but I think it doesn't have a big importance. You must touch the thumb together, okay, to give the fluid, okay. And then what's interesting is that you create a focusing of attention with the eyes, okay? So it means that I watch, for example, between her two eyes, and I don't blink at the beginning. It's just to create what we call fascination. It's very non-verbal technique coming from animal hypnotism, okay? After one moment, I see and I feel that I kept her attention. And I feel in the body and in the arm that she has catalepsia. What I do is that I just remove slowly. You felt it. You felt when I removed my, yes. I remove slowly my hands just to make her arm floating in the air, okay? Then when I feel it, if the patient keeps his eye open, that it doesn't matter. If he blink his eye, it's okay. And if I want to make him close his eyes, I can make paces like this, you know, It's non-verbal communication. Or sometimes I can make lateral passes like this. And you have the same feeling like you're on a train, you know, when things are passing the pylon or things like this. It creates monotonous things and it involves a trance. Then when she's like this, you know, the catalepsia is a consequence of the trance. Usually is the first hypnotic phenomena with the levitation, catalepsia of the hands. But also what's interesting is that hypnotic phenomena are generated by the trance, but they can also induce the trance. They can be generator of the trance. And they are the best generator of the trance because they are non-verbal, they are physical. And then I just have to deepen a little bit the trance. So I focus on her breathing, and each time that she's breathing out, I just press on the shoulder. That's it, just to relax. That's very simple, okay? I show you another one. Okay. And this one is coming, and then you will practice, because it's funny. It's interesting to be at the same time the operator and the subject, because as operator you get a view from the outside, but the most interesting thing is to have the view from the inside and to be the subject. That's how you understand hypnosis, how it works for you. And it's completely subjective. I mean, it works differently from one guy to another one. Okay? So this one is another induction. So non-verbal, I don't speak. Okay, interesting? Mm-hmm. Thank you. So, it's called the Marx-Howell induction. It was a forensic hypnosis, and he worked a lot with non-verbal hypnosis. So we'll practice together, and I'll show you that I use it with kids, for example. You can use it at your office, and I'm very fascinated with kids because I never talk about hypnosis. They don't even know what it is, you know. So as a mother, say I use hypnosis. You want us to try hypnosis or to make hypnosis? I say, I'm going to make the dental treatment with you, and you're going to be like in a dream. Is it okay for you? I don't talk hypnosis. I just say we use your imagination, and I use this kind of induction. There's a lot of non-verbal technique, but this one is funny. I think he was six years old. And according to the age of the patient, when you are making hypnosis with kids, you can make a lot of induction, and most of them are usually non-verbal. In fact, I didn't make a non-verbal, I talk. But I don't do things in a, I mean orthodox way, you know. I just do things as it came to my mind when I do it. So I say, as the chair recline, you go deeper in your dream. And then usually, so this is the start of the induction, and then usually during the treatment, so I deepen, and yeah, that's it. And when I make the treatment, I usually make automatic movement, especially with kids, because it activates the subconscious activity. And I say you're on the bike, okay? And there's a mountain, and you must bike very fast, and making a lot of games like this, you know. And during the treatment, I make a lot of hypnotic phenomena, like levitation, catalepsia, and many things like this, in order that they can be treated in a deeper trance. Especially in surgery, when you make hypnoanesthesia, when you make pain management, the level of trance is very important. You can't make things in light trance. In therapeutic hypnosis, it's different, but I mean, in operative hypnosis, you must have a good level of trance and test it too. Okay, so let's practice. So, 2 by 2, you make mesmeric inductions. Okay? Ready? So, we have a lot of techniques. The first one is the first that I show you with the catalepsia. The other one is to make a fixation of the eyes and then to make just mesmeric passes. The idea of the mindset of the operator is I have a fluid in my hands, and this fluid is going to make you in a deep sleep. That's it. And it works. It's magical. Ready? Okay. 5 minutes. You can make it. You want to try? Yeah, you can. Great. Thank you. So that's very interesting to practice. How was your feedback about this induction? It's very gentle and very sensitive. I mean, very kinesthetic, you know. And I show you the historical induction of Mark Sowell. This is Mark Sowell. Yes? So, what he makes first is focus the attention. Eye fixation on the end. Okay? Eye fixation is interesting for the entrance of trance. It's not necessary, but it's interesting. Then he suggests the eye closure with the hand. Sometimes you can press, but it's not very elegant. Then he makes catalepsia with the hand, one hand behind, and the other one continue to move or to be fixed in the air, a rigid catalepsia. I consider there's 3 catalepsia. One is rigid, one is floppy, when you have a floppy arm, and the other one, the third one, is when you have a catalepsia, for example, when you're sticking a hand on the table. Catalepsia just means that the conscious mind doesn't control the muscular activity of the arm. It's the subconscious. It's the imagination. And then it's just deepening technique. You can make also, for example, press on certain points and just make deepening technique, non-verbal deepening technique. In this photography, this one, yes?
About the mesmeric induction, I don't remember. At what point did you do the mesmeric passes?
It depends. There's a lot of techniques, you know.
No, at the demonstration.
At the demonstration?
At what point did you do the passes?
When you had the catalepsia and the eyes closed, I make the passes. What's interesting is that when the patient, and you feel it when you're the subject, when your eyes are closed and when you make the passes, you feel them with the eyes, because when the eyes is closed, you can see your hand moving, but you feel the things. It means there's no fluid, I have no fluid, but you feel the kinesthetic, you know, the warmness and the déplacement of the arm. This is a picture from Jean Filiatre. He's French. He's written a book called Magnetism and Animal Magnetism and Mesmerism and Hypnotism in Pictures. And he describes, I think, maybe 200 or 300 techniques about non-verbal hypnosis. So there's a lot to do with that. And we can use it in our hypnosis to, I would say, improve our induction and our technique. Because I usually say that subconscious is not in the brain. It's just the mind and the body. And the more you give suggestion that can be addressed to the mind and to the body, the more it's powerful. Yes. No.
Was there a reason why you turned my hands?
No, it doesn't matter. No, you can put it like this, like this.
Because my hands wanted to stay like this.
Yes.
You turned them.
Yeah. The idea of the mesmerism was to create the rapport and to give fluid. And he say we give fluid by the thumb. But I think it's just a picture. But what's interesting is that they usually say that I make a quick demonstration. But if you read mesmerism, old practitioner, they say we keep like this during 30 minutes. Just to create the rapport. And then we start making passes during 45 to 1 hour. So,
Can I have a little question?
yeah, of course.
Last month we had a Zoom with the board and Doctor Lemaire.
Yes.
And I was talking about the mesmeric passes, and he suggested me to take my club.
Yes.
Watch.
Yeah.
So when I practice with I take it out, what do you think about it might be an interference between
Interference of...
for the passes?
Yes, it depends on your belief. What I mean is that do you believe in a magnetic field? Yeah. Do you believe that there's a fluid coming through the hands? Yeah. Okay. Personally, I don't. But I know how it works. But according to your belief, if you believe that something is real, and that there's a fluid coming from the hand, your belief system is that if there's electronic things, it can interfere. Okay? Personally, I can make animal magnetism with kids and at my office, but I don't believe in the scientific truth of a real fluid. I think there's something different, which is more brain-to-brain connection. We see that when we make this induction, immediately, but it's more animal things, there's a synchronicity of the breathing, there's a synchronicity of many things. But it's, I would say, very animal, very human, you know. And the first one to say that there's no fluid were the French imaginationists. The first one was the Abbé de Faria, okay? This guy in the middle is very interesting. He's called, no one knows about him. He's called Hénin de Cuvilliers. And this one is Dr. Bertrand, is a French guy. And these people say, okay, we observe the mesmerism, and imagination in action is the key secret to mesmerism. They say, 𝒍'𝒉𝒂𝒊𝒓𝒆 say the concentration of the patient and the concentration of the operator is very important. And this guy, Hénin de Quivillers, he was the personal secretary of Mesmer at the Society for the Universal Harmony, because Mesmer was a businessman and he had created a society, a private society, to sell his secret about magnetism. And then you have two wonderful books in English. It's written by Rémi Coté, he's Canadian. He's a very, very nice guy, and he's written two books. One about imaginationist hypnosis. It's very interesting to read. And the other one about Hénin de Quivillers, creator of hypnosis. And we usually say that Braid said the word hypnosis, you know, in 1843, and in fact it's Hénin de Quivillers. And what's interesting is that he said the word hypnosis in 1820, so 20 years before, but he said hypnosis as, and he invented like 200 words about hypnosis, you know, and his definition, and especially the Greek etymology, was not hypnos, god of sleep, it was hypnonae. And hypnonae, etymologically, it means the dream at night. And his idea was that during the day you are conscious, during night you sleep and you dream. And when you make hypnosis, you make a sort of cerebral switch. You activate the dream during the day. And that's the best definition of somnambulism. You have a hallucinatory trance, you know, and you activate the brain, the imaginary brain. Then, of course, we have the introduction of James Braid. Everyone knows about James Braid and his induction. And there's interesting facts about the interaction between stage hypnosis and medical hypnosis, because James Braid saw a hypnotist, a stage hypnotist, and he said, okay, there's no magnetic things, there's just a focusing, a brain focusing, eye focusing on an object. And he developed his induction. And we are going to practice the brain induction, which is the one. I show you a demonstration. I don't have a lot of kids at my office, but I don't know, I put just video of kids. Because when I do induction with adults, it's more, I would say, conventional, you know. But when I do it with kids, it's more ludic. So I use a lot of pendulum, things like this, to keep it funny, you know. So here is the magical stick. I say just focus, boom. When I touch, you go. This one is funny.
Voilà, et ferme les yeux complètement.
With the dental mirror. We can see the sign of trance, you know, the gazing of the eyes, blinking, sometimes deglutition. And there's immediate relaxation of the body. Okay, let's practice. Who wants to be my partner?
I'd love to see.
You come? Okay, so a very easy one. I don't know, yeah. I have no pendulum, but I have incredible pendulum. So Braid usually say that we must, oh yeah, Wonderful. Oh, very nice. Thank you. So you're going to focus your attention on the jaw. Okay. As I talk to the audience, you continue. And when you feel uncomfortable, you can close your eyes and go in trance. Okay, so we just focus the attention of the patient on something. We made it in a more kinesthetic way with the mesmerism, and then we make it in a visual way, okay? We can see a sign of trance, you know, activation of REM. The breathing is changing, okay. Take a nice deep breath, and just come back. Great. Good, thank you. So very easy. You can make it something swinging, or you can take your dental mirror and make just thing like this, or you can make something like this and say to the patient, when it touches your eyes, you close your eyes, go in trance. I never say trance to the patient. I say, you go in deep sleep, and I say, you go in deep sleep and you will continue to hear everything. Because sleep, I don't know about you, but I use always the term sleep, even if I know that hypnosis is not sleep. But if sleep is the very easiest and shortest suggestion to the patient to put them in trance. Because they know, everyone knows what sleep is. But I don't want to have the patient say, okay, I was not in hypnosis because I was not sleeping. So I usually say you go in deep sleep and continue to hear everything. So it's a mix between focusing the attention and at the same time being in the good state to go in hypnosis. Then you can say, okay, just focus your attention on the pen, and when it touches your head, you will close your eyes and you go in deep sleep. Or you can say, okay, as your eyes are blinking, when it feels uncomfortable, you can close your eyes and go deeper. Many suggestions. It can move. I use also induction with lights and things like this, you know. It can be something just focusing the visual attention. Okay, you can try if you want. With the braid induction, 2 by 2. So that's interesting. It's very efficient, you know. What can we learn? I'm not crazy about neuroscience, but I have some friends in France who are very connected, and they tell me, okay, this thing is interesting to read, so I know a little bit about what happens. But usually, as I say, when you are driving a car, you don't need to know everything about the engine and how it works inside. Anyway, I know a little bit, so what can we learn from neuroscience is that we have a default mode network, which is the work of the brain when we do nothing. And when we do nothing, there's a lot of things. We usually think that nothing's happened in the brain because we have an internal dialogue and internal directed action when we have a default mode. Then we have a silence network. It's a switch when we have interaction with something that happens. And it creates the executive networks, which is a more directly determined action. And during the day, we are switching all the day. William James called it consciousness waves, you know. We think Inside, we have internal dialogue, then we talk with people, then we see something, then we go back inside our mind. And that's how it works. What we know, and this is the work of mainly, I read a lot about Pierre Rainville. He's in Canada. And I think he's the most interesting guy that investigates with people like David Spiegel or the neuroimagery of the brain in trance. So his work is very interesting. And there's a handbook published by Routledge, a big handbook about hypnosis. And there is a chapter, very interesting, made by Pierre Rainville. It shows that when we have relaxation and mental fluidity, it can create a focalization and a mental absorption. It's like focusing the attention, for example, with the pen, you know. And this focusing of the attention creates an inhibition of the prefrontal cortex, okay? And this inhibition of the prefrontal cortex, it gives a loss of agentivity. It means that you're less actor and you're more spectator of what happens. And it gives the feeling of automaticity and the subconscious activity, which is automatic, involuntary, and without effort. And the more the inhibition you have, the more suggestible you are. So to keep it simple, I say to my patient or to my student, when you make hypnosis, you put the voice, the inside voice of the hypnotist inside the voice of the patient. So you substitute the inside dialogue of the patient by the voice of the hypnotist, and you're focusing the attention. And they're still conscious, but it's more spectator, and it's not involved in the action. You see things happen automatically. And this feeling of strangeness that we have in the trance is the dissociation between you see things happen automatically. Because during the day we make a lot of things automatically, but usually we don't put conscious in that. And with trance, at the same time, you observe things that are happening automatically, like levitation, things like this. And it's involuntary. It happens without conscious. After the England hypnosis, so it started in France with Mesmer, and then it moved to England with the Britannic trio, Esdale, Elliotson, and Braid, and then it came back in France, and it was called the Golden Age of Hypnosis with the Charcot School of Paris of Hypnotism, and also the Nancy School of Hypnotism. Two guys, more than two guys, but the main guys were Liebo and Bernheim. Okay, they are very famous, and they introduced something very interesting. It was the second ingredient in hypnosis. It was the power of suggestion. Bernheim is the first to describe the power of the suggestion. He said, hypnotism is a natural state, and everyone, on a different degree, is suggestible. Okay? And he was the first to invent the word psychotherapy. So that's very quite interesting. But there was a difference between Liebo and Bernheim. Liebo was a practitioner. He was a practitioner. It was incredible. I saw his clinic in Nancy and a reconstitution of his clinic. And he had small boxes. And for each patient, he came, he said, okay, think of deep sleep, and everything is fine in your body, just direct suggestion. You don't feel your back problem, your digestion is fine, and just direct suggestion. It took 3 minutes, then you go to the next patient, then you go to and he was a doctor. He was coming from a poor family, and he made studies, so it was a sacrifice. And at the end, he removed his, I would say, plaque of doctor and say, healer. I'm just a healer. And everyone could come and they can give what they want as money. And that That's crazy. He had like 200 patients a day. So 2 minutes each one. And then the suggestion, the post-hypnotic suggestion can last sometimes 1 week, 2 weeks, 3, and then they came back. And it was like this. And Bernheim was very impressed and interested. And he said, okay, we just need suggestion. We don't need the trance. And Liebo knew that it was wrong. It was not only hypnotism. In hypnotism, you have both ingredients. The trance with the imagination and the suggestion. So, how did work the induction of Liebo? Very easy. Can I have a partner? I show you. Okay, Marcello. It's an interesting induction because then it was designed again by Develman. So he said to the patient, okay, he closed his eyes with the 2 fingers, and I say, think of sleep. Think of sleep. Think of sleep. Think of sleep. That's it. Then he take the hand and he check that he has catalepsia. Okay. Okay. And then you can check also. It's interesting because it goes immediately in a trance of relaxation, you know? And that's happened because we have 2 kinds of typology of trance, trance of relaxation and trance of activation. And without giving any kind of suggestion, you can see how the subject is reacting to the trance. That's very interesting. Okay, take nice deep breath. Great. And you come back. Thank you. So, very easy induction. It's just, yes?
I have a question.
Of course.
If you say think of sleep,
yes.
Relaxation is more...
of course.
Because
yes.
when you sleep, you have separation of movement and
yes,
movement.
exactly.
So
yes.
When we think of running in our sleep,
yes.
we never move. We
exactly.
stay in our bed.
Yes.
So this relaxation, when you say think of sleep, is more...
Exactly. Yes. And usually, you know, this connection between sleep and between hypnosis is something that was, I would say, during many centuries, people were discussing about is hypnosis sleep or not, so we know that it's not. But we know that there's 2 kinds of deep trance, what we call deep stuporous trance and deep somnambulic trance. And they are different, not in a quantitative but in a qualitative way, because they don't activate the same parts of the brain. But we can mix them together. And sometimes in operative hypnosis for dentistry, when you make surgery, when you want to have, for example, hypno anesthesia, you not use chemical anesthesia, you must start first with activation to make somnambulic trance in order to produce the hypnotic phenomena of anesthesia. But as you're working on the body, you must give sedation, and then you give trance of relaxation. So that's very interesting, and that's very clever. Good question.
You know, I think the catalepsia
yes.
is the thanatosis.
Yes.
But the thanatosis is not only the reflex when you are hunted, but it's also the same reflex as the mother bites the little child here.
Exactly.
And it's this bite here which makes total catalepsia is to the way to surrender and be parted.
Yes.
And sleeping is something different.
Yes.
It's kind of surrender to the environment.
Yes.
Not to be parted by something else.
Yeah, I agree totally. And the idea also, and we learn it from animal magnetism, is that hypnosis is linked to the primitive brain activity. Because we saw hypnosis in the animal world, there's not a lot of books about animal hypnotism. There's Kircher, who wrote things about chicken during the 18th century, And then there is an excellent book about Volgiesi, Animal Magnetism, Animal Hypnotism, I don't know the title, Animal Hypnotism. And there's maybe, I have 2 books or 3 books about animal hypnotism. I know how to hypnotize my cat. I have some video I can show you. And I know how to hypnotize chicken and things like this. And it's very interesting because when you make hypnosis with kids, as I say, they never heard the word or they never saw on TV. And usually you have a theory of hypnosis during the 60s and the 70s. We say, is it a state or is it a non-state? Okay? Is it a state, something linked to the brain activity, or is it something linked to social communication, kind of social communication? And my idea, and it was confirmed by the neuroscience and neuroimagery, is that hypnosis is linked to the activation of something very animal and very primitive in the brain. And this idea of the inhibition of the prefrontal cortex, it means that you must not activate your neocortex. It means that you activate your primitive brain, which is linked to sensation, which is linked to emotion, and which is linked to picture, to symbols. And there's a guy, an Australian guy called 𝒍'𝒉𝒚𝒑𝒏𝒐𝒔𝒆. He was considered as the equivalent of Ericsson in Australia during the 20th century. And he made a lot of experiments with automatic writing and automatic drawing with the patient in hypnosis. And his idea was that hypnosis was something to bring back a sort of archaic brain, archaic functional brain, in order to have access to the subconscious mind. And it's really linked to what you're talking about, animal magnetism. I'm very fascinated by this theory and this idea of animal hypnosis because they are confirmed by neuroimagery. It means that some things happen really in the brain. It's not just social interaction. There is a social communication interaction. Yeah.
Is the reflex?
Yeah.
Is that the reason why the Marx-Hau injection puts the hand there? And
No, I don't think so. My idea, yeah.
The cervical two muscle on both sides is a kind of sense organ because it has many Muskelspindeln. I don't know the English word. And the way these muscles are pressed is connected to the eyes.
Yes.
To the ear.
Equilibrium.
Yes.
Yes.
And by this, there is a kind of that our body always knows if I have just my body straight and my head looks like this, or if I'm like this, the position of my head is the same. Yes. But here, where the mother bites, then it presses this. And also when you go very much into the back, that's why dental hypnosis is so effective, because when you go backwards, you press this. And this is a kind of dissociation. So when in yoga, you stand on one foot, and you make this movement, most of the people fall down.
Yeah.
Because the feeling of the body is dissociated from the brain. So body feeling and brain activity is dissociated if we have a lot of pressure on this thing here. And so, when the mother bites here, there's a kind of dissociation, dreaming in this.
Yes.
And also, if you see, when I see history of hypnosis, I always miss something, especially in France. It's very interesting because all the people who went from town to town and do this show, the barder and the very early surgeons use this, they always do it like this, with movie and like this, to make this kind of dissociation and to finish feeling.
Yeah.
To hypnoanalgesie.
Yes.
Like this.
Yes.
Just by this. Yeah. first like this, but when it has happened, you can go like this. But in the dental chair, you are always like this, and this is the association feeling.
Okay.
Sorry, this is wonderful. Going back to your first, so you recommend, you suggest the word sleep rather than the other one, because I was translated, so I couldn't feel it.
No, well, you were expecting catalepsia when you were with me, but you were
so relax.
Yeah.
And I said maybe it's the suggestion to go into sleep, but because also when we sleep, we have a disconnection between our brain and our body, because we stay in bed even though we may fly or we may fast. Yes. Only few people start really to beat around when they are, which is bad for the partner who is lying beside them. So we have this, it's a special word, it's called paralysis, sleeping paralysis. This should be the English translation. And you said sleep.
Yes.
Sleep.
Yeah.
And maybe was the suggestion, because in sleep you have the dissociation of movement, of bodily activity which is going on in your brain. But when the mother bites here, it is easier for the mother to part the baby, but it's also a surviving reflex, because if the mother is hunted and the child will say, oh mama, I don't want, let me down and quick and all this, the other animal who is behind him would hear and would be able, where the mother would be able to hear where the mother is parting the baby. So the catalepsia there makes it easier for the mother to, the sleeping baby gets very heavy, but a baby with some tension in the body is much easier to carry, and then it's sleeping, and it's this kind of disconnection. So there are two different modes.
Yes, and what's interesting also about the neck muscle is that when we induce relaxation on the body, they are the last muscles to relax. So when you make instant induction, usually you make a revolving, you know what it is? With the head like this, in order to relax the muscles, to have a complete, full relaxation of the body. And also you provoke, as Dorothea said, a loss of equilibrium, because you are disorientated, the labyrinthic system of the ear. And when you make things like this, it induces trance, because there is a dissociation between the mind and the body immediately. And there's a lot of induction, for example, that you can make if you make people stand on the floor. You make them turn on one side, on the other side, on one side, the other side. But it's very dangerous because they can fall like a flopper, But usually you make it with the eyes revolving of the head like this. And it's a very efficient and good technique, especially in fast and instant induction. And it's this idea of the loss of equilibrium. But it's the same loss of equilibrium when you're making, postural test, the idea, So after this Liebo induction, we had some description in France. So this is the end of the 19th century. A jaw tumor removed under hypnosis in Poitiers by two guys. And at the same time, so just 40 years later, Dr. Carter and Turner made multiple teeth extraction in England. And they claimed that they were the first dental clinic to use mesmerism, to use hypnotism, to make extraction. At this time, what's interesting is that both practitioners are using hypnotism or sometimes mesmerism in England. For example, Elliotson, he never, even if Braid had wrote his book, and even if the theory of magnetism decreased and the theory of hypnotism increased, he never he never agreed with hypnotism. He kept his practice of magnetism. And then what's interesting, it disappears from England and it goes to the United States. And when you study history of hypnosis, at the beginning of the 20th century, the United States, it was mesmerism and mainly stage hypnotism or mesmerism demonstration. And the first book written is by Dr. Phil Brown in 1992, Hypnotism as Applied Dentistry. So that's it's not really a book, it's a book made by his articles and his publication. I can send it in PDF, I must have it, and it's not very big, it must be 50 pages. And he had a good definition of hypnosis. The great essential feature of hypnotism is not sleep, but a heightened receptivity of suggestion with or without sleep. In other words, any suggestion offered to a person during hypnosis has an exaggerated effect on his mind. So they had an understanding of hypnosis, and the description that they gave of their induction is coming from Liebo. You think of nothing but sleep. Your eyelids begin to feel easy. Your eyes are tired. Repeat the word sleep. So during that time, we had the first movement at the end of the 19th century of dentists of description of dental hypnosis with mesmerism or with hypnotism. That's the first generation of practitioner. At the same time, what's interesting is that there was development of the Christian Science by a lady called Mary Baker Eddy. We could call it faith healing, faith healer. It means that they use hypnotism or magnetism to induce healing, and they say it's faith. And some dentists were in that movement, and they say God's law is more powerful than the law of dentistry. I like this sentence like this. But I'm not sure that the patient will be agree today. But that's interesting because you see the power of belief, and belief is very important ingredients in hypnosis. And when we study hypnosis, the history of hypnosis, we say that finally we can say we have three ingredients. Imagination is the activation of the brain, the trance. Suggestion, it can be verbal, it can be non-verbal. And the belief system. Belief system is when a belief is a truth of the subconscious. And according to different times, this triangle could be like this one with three equal. And sometimes when you use, for example, magnetism, you just diminish one side of the triangle and you can move it like this. And we can say hypnosis is the activation of the surface of the triangle. Something, it's just an anecdote, but a guy in Switzerland, at the same time, he used a Blu-ray. He had a dental office, and in front of the dental chair, he put just a blue tissue, in fact, on a candle, on a light, and say to the patient, just focus on this blue light, and when I treat your teeth, just focus on it, and you will feel nothing. So it was not hypnotism, but it was a kind of hypnotism. But he never said the word hypnotism. And then hypnosis declined. You know why? At the beginning of the 20th century, the beginning.
Anesthetics.
Yes, two elements. The first one is when we read the book and the report of the article of the early practitioner at the end of the 19th century, they say hypnosis is a hard work. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, but it takes time. And I remember one time in an interview, a guy asked Milton Erickson a definition of hypnosis, and he say, hypnosis, laborious work. It means that we know that trance is a work, you know. It's easy to induce, but it doesn't, it's an adventure, in fact. It's very subjective, so it takes time. And at the same time, of course, the dental anesthesia, gas and injection. But what's interesting is that we had, so hypnosis declined, but dentists realized that patients, and we are still having the same fact today, are still afraid, you know. Even if we say, okay, we have anesthesia, we have comfort, patients are still afraid. And in fact, there's nothing new under the sun. What I mean is that we are still using dental hypnosis in our office because we are treating, of course, a specific and emotional part of the body, which is the mouth, you know. Penfield, he was a neurologist, and he explained that on the cortex activity, the hand and the mouth especially are a big part of the activity and the representation of the brain, especially in the surface. So it means two things. It explains why we are so emotionally impacted by the treatment in our mouth first, and then how we can use our hand and our mouth to create trance, because it activates a lot of things in the brain. So when I make things with induction, I usually use the hand of my patient. I don't need the whole body, just to make things like relaxation or anesthesia. During that time, no one was talking about dental hypnosis except one guy. And it's very interesting because at the end of the 19th century, we saw that we had a generation of American dental practitioners using hypnosis. And then there was nothing. And just one guy in the 30s, Dr. Burgess, created the psychosomatic sleep courses to train dental people, dental practitioners to hypnosis. And he said, and he introduced the word humanitarian dentistry. That's interesting because it was a comprehension that the patient was not just one teeth or a body, but that there was a mind behind the patient. And we had some books about that time that induce the idea that there are some psychological factor involved in the treatment of the patient. And then hypnosis came back at the beginning of the 50s, in fact. And we had a lot of books during that time, from the 50s until, I would say, the 60s, especially in America and a little bit in England. The first one is Psychosomatic and Suggestion Therapy in Dentistry by Stolzenberg. And he had a very interesting induction. Who wants to try? Yeah? Okay. So it's a very interesting induction because it's an induction that we usually saw as a test, you know. We used to practice tests in order to say test of suggestibility, to say to the patient, okay, you are highly suggestible or you're a bad subject. And test, the word is bad because test means that you can fail. So we usually say we make a game of imagination. So take your hand like this and feel them tight, 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 tight. And you will tight so much that when you will try to apart them, they will stick together. The more you try, the more they stick together. Okay, try again. Okay, stop trying. Good. Then, second test, you make high catalepsy. Okay, just relax your hand. Okay, now close your eyes. And you will stick your eyes, eyelids together. We stick them so much that when you will try to open them, they will stay closed. Can try? Okay, stop trying. Good. Then, body relaxation. At the count of 3, you feel a wave coming from the head to the top of your feet. Relax, totally relax. Great. In a moment, I'm going to take your arm and I lock the wrist, the elbow, and the shoulder. Stay in the air, very rigid. Okay. Wonderful. And then you start doing the treatment. Okay? That's a kind of induction, and it mixes test and hypnotic phenomena. Okay, just relax. Got to count from 1 to 3. Okay, thank you. So it was an interesting description of an induction that was mixing hypnotic phenomena and at the same time test. And that's quite interesting. Then we had another book called Psychosomatic and Hypnotism in Dentistry by McDonald, still American, 1949. And his induction was very simple. It was starting by making a body relaxation, just like a, I don't know how you call it in English, or in France we say body scan. Just to relax, think of your head, then your shoulder and stuff like this. Then it say mental relaxation, think of nothing. Then it suggested usually fascination with the eyes, as we saw in mesmerism. Suggestion, very simple, deeper sleep. And then you start practicing with the eye closure. We see it's old video.
In the past century, Israel did a lot of chirurgical operations with magnetic analgesia, mesmeric. This is very similar to mesmeric analgesia. In this case, it is done with the gaze. The fascinator, an Italian fascinator, Bellini, look and pass his hands near the points that must be analgesic, and after look at his eyes. They are very strong. The girl is in a trance, and now everything has been done without pain.
That's interesting because she kept the eyes open, so we can have induction and we can have a trend, the eyes opens. And it used very classical techniques of induction just by fascination, as we saw in mesmerism, you know. And once the critical factor of the patient is bypassed, you can give the suggestion that she feels nothing. And if the patient is suggestible, highly suggestible, you can get to hypno anesthesia very fast. If the patient is not, you have to work. And that's the work of hypnosis. That's a really work of hypnosis. Then we have, I would call it the Bible of hypnodontics. It's the book of Moss. It's a very big book. It's not the most practical book about hypnosis, but it's interesting because there's a lot of information. And Aaron Moss made a lot for dental association in New York during that time. So I don't describe you all the induction because there are 12 or maybe more than 12 induction techniques. But as we saw, they are very classical. They came from Braid, eye fixation. They came from Bernheim, direct state. You say deep sleep, deep sleep, deep sleep. They came from what you call cranes. You say relaxation, the body scan, you say to the patient. They came from the hand clasp. It came from Émile Coué, from the Nancy School of Hypnosis. It describes also highball, when you put your eyes like this, and you close your eyes, and then you follow the finger. You know, the Spiegel induction, or the some people call it the crystal crane induction. I don't know why. Then it describes also a funny one. It's called a placebo. You give the patient a pill and say, okay, take your pill, and you will feel the hypnotic coming. And that's funny. And the patient say, okay, I feel it now. And, and you say to the patient, it takes 3 minutes to come. And it will put you in a very... It usually comes, this technique, from Dr. Monroe. Dr. Monroe was an early practitioner from the beginning of the 20th century in US. And he influenced a lot the Mayo brother, the Mayo Clinic, you know, with Alice Mago, who made a lot from hypnotic and general anesthesia. And there is also, in most books, a lot of picture visualization. You say to the patient, think of your vacation, think of your place you like to go, or activation, visualization. A small book, but most very, very effective and interesting is the book written by Shaw in 1954. He gives 10 techniques, more than 10 techniques. I show you one that I use a lot. You like to come? Because it's very efficient. And I like techniques, and I use I used to make, in fact, at the beginning of my hypnotic training, at the beginning of the 2000, I was trained by Ormond McGill. And Ormond McGill was an American guy, and he was a stage hypnosis at his beginning. So I learned a lot of technique from stage hypnosis, and I use it because they are very efficient. And it was very elegant. And when we saw stage hypnosis, usually it's more shock induction or something that must be very show-off and must be visual and theatrical. And what's interesting is to adapt those techniques to the office to have something efficient, but you don't need the show. So I'm going to show you how to go in hypnosis. Thomas, have you ever practiced hypnosis?
A little bit.
Oh, wonderful. I show you how it works. So I take your hand. When the hand is up, you close your eyes. Okay? And when the hand is down, you think of relaxation. Closed. Relax. Close. Relax. Close. I look. Your arm is staying in the air. As the arm stays in the air, you will go in a wonderful, pleasant state of relaxation. Wonderful. And the more the arm is floating in the air, the more you go in that state of reverie, of relaxation. The deeper you go, the better you feel. Better feel, the better you go. On each relaxation, each breathing, go deeper. Everything is nice, easy, good. In a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 3, and you will feel your arm that will go down completely, automatically. 1, 2, 3. And the more it goes down, the more it brings you deeper in that state of relaxation. Wonderful. As I talk to the audience, continue to go deeper in trance. So the idea is to make a fractionation. Eyes open, eyes closed, eye opens, eye closed. Okay? I say when the arm is up, your eyes are closed. When your arm is down, you open the eyes. And I give a suggestion of relaxation, of deep sleep, or anything that suggests relaxation. Then when I see that there's a confusion, that there's signs of trance, in his eyes. When I put it up, he opens, or sometimes I see confusion. Then I lock the arm and provoke a catalepsia. I use this catalepsia as a deepening technique. I say the more it's floating in the air to make a hypnotic loop, the more you go. I don't use the term trance, but I say relax or reverie or anything like this. And then I check that when it goes down, it's automatic, because subconscious activity is automatic and voluntary and without effort. So I check that when his arm goes down, there's no conscious activity in the arms. Then usually, if it's for dental work, I would provoke, for example, anesthesia of the hand, and then I can transfer it to the mouth, for example. Or if it's something, if I don't use hypnoanesthesia, if it's just hypnosedation, I would deepen the trance. So there's a lot of deepening technique. Okay? But the idea for inducing the trance is the idea of fractionation. You can add a lot of trick. Like, for example, when I take the arms, I just take it with my thumb and the fingers. And when I put it down, I just press to make a pressure, exaggerate pressure, to make him feel that his arm. And then I feel when the movement is automatic, you know. That's interesting. Okay, just relax. In a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 3. And you will take a nice deep breath, full of energy, and you will come back and you can open your eyes. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Thank you, Thomas. So Shaw described a lot of techniques like this, and his book is full of very good techniques, very easy techniques that can be applied to the office. Then, in the 50s, another good book is Dr. Frost. He usually used eye fixation. We saw how it works with braid, then relaxation, then fascination. And he used a technique that I use also. Is based on Constam, Dr. Constam. He was a neurologist. Automatic activity of the muscle. So come back, please. I just show you how it works. It's very easy, and it's the best way to provoke a levitation. So, everyone knows the instant induction. You know, when you say to the patient, you know it. Okay, so it's going to be the inverse on this one. You say to the patient, okay, look at my eyes, press, 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 and then say, sleep, like this, okay? Instant induction. This one, but I don't use it because it's too show-off at the office. So I use the contrary. I say to the patient, now you're going to lift my hand. Okay, lift, lift, close your eyes. Lift, 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 lift. Okay, relax. And your hand is moving. Okay. Lighter, 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 lighter. And then you provoke the levitation. It means that you press, so you make the contrary movement, and then, yes, there is an automatic contrary movement of the muscle. It's described by Constant. He used kids, he press the arms like this, and then when you relax, the hands are moving like this. Or when you press your, for example, your arm against a wall, you press, and then you don't do nothing, and it starts. Okay? That's interesting because you can activate a levitation. And I'm right-handed at the office, so I usually start my induction on the right of my patient with the right hand. And usually I make a reverse levitation. Thomas, in a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 3. At 3, you will feel your right arm goes down and your left arm goes up. 1, 2, 3. And it brings you deeper in trance. And then, as I'm right-handed, I start working like this. So usually I make the, for example, the hand glove technique, or many technique with the hands, or signaling on the left hand. because I'm working right. But that's why I always start induction on the right side. And I realize that I'm so accustomed to do this that I have difficulties to make hypnosis in demonstration if the patient is on that side, because I'm right. That's funny. Okay, take a nice deep breath. And you can come back. Thank you again. So this one is based on Frost work. I show you how it works, but you so understood easily.
Alors, vous allez poser la main à plat comme ça, voilà, et vous allez pousser la main vers le haut comme ça. Voilà, allez, fort, allez, fermez les yeux. Fort, fermez les yeux.
The arm is floating in the air, and then you suggest easily the levitation. The more the arm goes in the air, the more you go in trance in that state of hypnosis. I always make at the beginning what we call distraction filter. I mean, you will hear all the noises around you, all the noises of the office, the telephone, the assistant, and then you will continue to hear all the noise in your mouth, vibration, water, noise, and the more sensation you have in your mouth, the more you go deeper in trance. What's interesting is that I always give this suggestion at the beginning, and then I repeat, I think, 5 times, I don't know, at the beginning of hypnosis, at the beginning of the induction, then after deepening, then after, and then when I start working, I check that I have a level of trance with automatic activity. Preston, it was medical hypnosis, they start working when subconscious is the boss. And I think it's the best definition of deep trance. It means that according to the work you have to do, for example, therapeutic work or operative work in hypnosis, you must go to the level of trance or bring your patient to the level of trance that is necessary. And what's interesting in surgery is that the more you bring it at the beginning very deep in somnambulic state, so I validate it very easily with amnesia, for example, or analgesia. I mean hypnotic phenomena that are, I don't go necessarily to positive or negative hallucination, but I go to a level, level enough, I would say around 5, around 4, around 5, to have automatic activity. So it creates a brain loop, and each time the patient feels sensation in his mouth, each time it goes deeper in trance. And I don't have to talk during surgery. And when I make hypnosis, I take time at the beginning to make inductions very fast, but to make deepening technique in order to go to the level of trance I want to work, and then I never talk. And then she goes in trance, and we make teeth preparation on vital teeth without anesthesia. She never done hypnosis before. It was the first time, and she was a very good subject. But this could be made because she had immediately dental anesthesia, hypno anesthesia, and it can be made not on the patient at the first time. I think only I have approximately, like all the practitioners said, 20% for the first time that goes to a deeper level of somnambulic trance. And then what's interesting is that hypnosis, trance, is a learning, and at the second appointment, they go in deeper trance, third appointment, etc. That's how it works with the dental trance, and especially with phobic patients. Yeah?
What kind of tension is that? Anxiety or?
This one? Oh no, it's no anxiety. No, she has no anxiety. But what I mean is that, for example, if I had a patient which is really phobic, I mean he is I have some, I would say, top 5 phobic in my office, as every hypnodontic practitioner. And some of them, when they enter the room of the dental office, they collapse. They have a vagal activity, you know, and they collapse. Or sometimes it's in the waiting room. They just wait, one time say, hello, boom, the patient was falling down. Because he say, oh, I was so afraid to go to the dentist that I couldn't sleep. Then I'm thinking about it since 3 days. You know the power of it. We know it as hypnotists. And though for patients like this, I never make dental treatment. First, I make a 1-session hypnotherapy of desensitization, usually regression to the cause, okay, with hypnosis. Sometimes it needs 2 appointments of hypnotherapy, not more than 2. And then I start making dental treatment with hypnosis, making first small dental treatment, something not so long, but with hypnosis. And it creates a positive learning of trends and a positive learning that they can be treated in hypnosis with comfort, without stress, without anxiety. And the idea also is that we know that at the first appointment, at the first trance in hypnosis, I would say 15 to 20% of somnambulic people, like in stage hypnosis, in fact. I'm not better than anyone, you know. Like 60% that goes in, I would say, middle trance, 20% that goes in light trance, and 10% that are very resistant, you know. Then the second appointment, hypnosis is a positive learning, so I give them suggestion, post-hypnotic suggestion after the first with anchoring techniques, stuff like this, that they will go deeper and faster and easier in deep trance. So second session, 4th session, and it was Bernheim who described this phenomena. He said, my patient, everyone he comes at the office, everyone he goes in deeper trance, you know. And usually, for everyone, we reach somnambulic state after 4 or 5 sessions. And what's interesting is that dental phobic patients are the best patients for hypnosis because their negative hallucination, imagination is so intense. Then when you switch it to a positive imagination, they are very good subjects in hypnosis. And I had a phobic patient, and usually I make dental treatment at the beginning after the 2 or 3rd session for phobic patient, something very simple, not so long, easy. And I usually make the surgery if I have implant or extracted tooth after 3 or 5 sessions. So they have confidence, they have less anxiety, they are better subjects with higher suggestibility in hypnosis, and then they can go deeper trance. And I remember the patient say, okay, no, I don't need hypnosis anymore, I'm cured. And so he went on the dental chair, it was for surgery, and in fact he made this all self-hypnosis by himself. Say, because everything, as you said, when we recline the chair, you activate also the vagal activity. Develman also in medical hypnosis described a lot of induction. Who wants to be my partner for this induction? I can show you very fastly how easily how it works. Yeah? Okay.
First and last.
Yeah. Last but not least. So he described this one. It came from Liebo, you know, but when we do things like this, it's very scary. So you don't use this because it's a sign of the devil. You don't use this because you're going to squeeze the eyes. You use this, the finger, and you say, okay, and then you can adjust. You can say to the patient, okay, just focus your attention on my finger, and when my finger are closed and touch your eyes, close your eyes. Okay, relax the eyes, relax them so much that when you want to open them, they will still close. You can try. Stop trying and let that relaxation go down from the top of their head to your feet. Good. So this is the first one, okay? So 2 fingers, eye closure induction. The other one is the handshake induction. You can open your eyes, Ursula. So this one is very interesting. Just focus on my little finger. Yeah. And as your eyes are tired, you can close your eyes. Good. Perfect. The third one, takes a nice deep breath. And you can come back when you want. Okay. I'm going to take your hands 3 times. The first time you will feel your eyes heavy. The second time that I shake your hand, they will fall heavy and they close. And the third time, you will have a high catalepsy. You will try to open them, and they will be so relaxed that you can't open them. So the first time. Second time, feel them heavy. You can close them. Thank you. And the third time. Okay, try to open them. Okay, thank you. Good. Wonderful. And then 𝒍'𝒉𝒚𝒑𝒏𝒐𝒔𝒆 had a brilliant idea. He say, you can come back. He say, when you want to have a high catalepsy, you just say to the patient, close your eyes. So don't have to use a pendulum. That's the power of suggestion. You can have hypnotic phenomena without having external things to provoke it. It's just the power of the word, you know. And it can provoke hypnotic phenomena in order to induce the trance, and that's the idea of the 𝒍'𝒉𝒚𝒂𝒏𝒐𝒔𝒆 induction. It's not an induction. In fact, it's a process of hypnotic phenomena to put the patient in a good state of relaxation to start working. Okay, thank you. And what's interesting is that these techniques are very efficient. Here is one. So this catalyst induction is called the catalyst induction. You say to the patient, I'm going to take your hand 3 times. The first time the eyes are tied. The second time they close. The third time they want to open, but you can't. And it can be very efficient. Because it's based on expectation and instruction. You give instruction to the patient so they know how to go, and you give them expectation how it's going to happen. So the third time. And I always do hypnotic induction when the patient is seated on the chair, and you will understand why. Because when you make pattern interruption, some patients are what we call flopper. They become so relaxed, and you see it in stage hypnosis, that they fall down on the floor. One time, I had a patient, I was making instant induction. He was standing, and he was standing just in front of the chair, and he falls in the chair literally. And so now I make secure induction. They are always on the chair, and I be careful. This one is quite the same. So it was in the 50s, and 𝒍'𝒉𝒚𝒂𝒏𝒐𝒔𝒆, he made his medical course in hypnosis from 1948 to 1962, and he trained 10,000 practitioners in the US. So that's a lot. He was one of the most intensive training in hypnosis, medical hypnosis. He trained, of course, medicine, psychiatrists, psychologists, and a lot of dentists. And if you read Hypnotherapy, the book of 𝒍'𝒉𝒚𝒂𝒏𝒐𝒔𝒆, if you hear the audio, we have no video of 𝒍'𝒉𝒚𝒂𝒏𝒚𝒂𝒏𝒏, except one, but no video of medical treatment. And there's a lot of dental application. So his book is very valuable to read, this one, Hypnotherapy, because you have a lot of good technique for dental hypnosis. At the beginning, at the end of the 50s, beginning of the 60s, you had the first society written in hypnosis in the US, American Hypnodontic Society. It was usually on the West Coast in New York, okay? And it started in Minnesota, Dakota, Minnesota, were the first early practitioner in hypnosis. And then at that time, the British Society. And then they use hypnosis also. They introduce the psychosomatic use of hypnosis. So this is a hypnotist. He will give direct suggestion for phobia treatment. Everything is going to be fine. He's making a hypnoanalysis treatment for phobia, regression to the cause. So the patient is in a somnambulic state, so he can talk. I use a signaling technique at my office because sometimes the patient can't speak with the eyes open when I make the treatment. So I say to the patient, okay, is it fine? Or for example, if it's a long treatment, I say, you feel okay if we continue or you want to stop? So, and I say, you can say yes with any part of your body that can move automatically. I don't install what we call a regular signaling with yes, no, I don't know. So I make something very simple. But when I make hypnotherapy, yes. When I make hypnotherapy, I put somnambulic state in order to have the patient to talk in hypnosis because it's really more efficient. And then the patient can talk, of course, and go to the dental office. What time is it? Are we late? Okay, so I finish very fast with the books. Of course, everyone knows the book of Erickson, written in 1961, about dental hypnosis. He say induction must be adapted to the patient, so it doesn't give a lot of classical induction. It's very what we call utilization induction. At the same time, Dr. Frost wrote a book, a lot of classical induction that we know, with pendulum. Of course, Dr. Kruger was a gynecologist, brilliant guy. Everyone must read that book. And
1, your right arm is getting lighter and lighter. 2, 3. Straighten it out. Spread your fingers apart.
Hypnotic phenomena to induce trance, arm catalepsy.
Down to your shoulder. Your right arm is getting completely anesthetic and relaxed from your fingertips down to your shoulder. Now, your right arm is completely numb and anesthetic. Completely numb and anesthetic. I'm going to place a needle right through your arm and you won't feel a thing. You are completely relaxed. Your arm is completely...
Direct suggestion only, you know, and hypnotic phenomena. At the same time, in the 60s, Dr. Simpson, this one is interesting. It's based on focusing, as we saw on the brain activity in neuroscience. Focus the body, then the mind, and then at the end, he made a high focusing to make his induction. John Hartland, of course, he made a brilliant book about medical hypnosis. He's the guy who developed the ego strengthening technique, you know. And there's a lot of technique that we already know: high roll method, briefing, eye focusing, relaxation, visualization, fractionation, arm levitation. I don't know which one is that. I would like just to check. Oh yeah, everyone knows this one, this video? Oh, this one is a very good one.
Lovely. I want you to imagine that this little bit of cotton is a baby bunny, and this is a money bunny. And when I count on the 18, you go round and round and round. And you're going to see it. Oh, there they go. Have you seen them going round and round? Isn't that lovely? Listen now, I want you to pop your real head back, and I want you to keep looking at these bunnies. And you're going to watch the bunnies going round and round and round. And very soon you're going to see a foxy. A foxy chasing you. You're going to see a foxy. Let me know the moment you see the fox. And the moment you see the fox, your left hand will go bang.
So it's provoking visual hallucination with the young patient who say, okay, there's fox and there's rabbit. And there's cable, you know, and he put a piece of pellet, you know, and she must follow and say, when you see rabbit and when you see foxes, just tell me, and the arm is lifting. Mike Go know that guy because he's from Glasgow. It was George Farwell.
Let me know that fox is there. And now I see your hands beginning to lift. So just let it lift. Your little left hand is lovely. Your left hand, how lovely. And you can see that lovely little foxy. Now what I want you to do for me is I want you to help me. I want you to help me to save the bunnies. Because the bunnies there, they're hiding again, you see? I want you to help me save the bunnies. And because you can see the foxy chasing them now. Can you see the foxy chasing them now? That's lovely. What color is it? Brown fox. Oh, that rascal. And he's chasing them. But we won't let them catch them, will we? We'll save those little bunnies, shall we? What I'm going to do, I'm going to blow some air into that little toothy of yours. And I'm going to blow some lovely happy air because you know it makes a funny noise. And we're going to blow the air in the toothy and that will clean out the little hole in your tooth and we'll let the bunnies go into that little hole again. Shall we? Oh, shall we? Oh, how wonderful. There's the blanket. Slowly, please. Thank you very much. And see, this is the little thing that blows the air. And it's going to blow a little bit. You see the air blowing, do you? You see the air blowing? I'm going to blow that air into your tooth.
And it's making the treatment.
To help the bunnies.
So we see that hypnosis is very activation of the mind, and it's really the state of the somnambulic state of hypnosis. In France, we had a guy, Docteur 𝒍'𝒉𝒚𝒑𝒏𝒐𝒔𝒆, who wrote, it was in France, Sophrology by Caicedo. He wrote a lot. He had a great influence on hypnotism during that time. So nothing new under the sun, I would say. It's relaxation, contraction. Of course, Dr. Thompson, she was the first Ericksonian who came back in England and who explained all the principle of, I would say, hypnotic communication and Milton Erickson pattern. I have a video if you want.
When you're going to be taking teeth out for patients, you can run into dry sockets, which means that there is not enough bleeding, the blood doesn't form a clot, and the patient is in a lot of pain. The other extreme.
And so she's making demonstration.
The needle was removed
with
the bleeding was stopped from both holes.
Needle about bleeding control. And we made the same experiment. I made demonstration with Sharon Waxkirch, and she was in self-hypnosis, and I put 2 needles, and on this one she must concentrate on the contraction of the bleeding, and this one of the fluidification of the bleed. And when we removed 2 needles, that was very spectacular because she had no bleeding on that side, and on the other one it was really bleeding because it's something you can control with hypnosis. Dr. Roche in Germany, he wrote an induction about relaxation and eye fixation. In fact, all the ingredients that we saw in the historical induction, like eye fixation, fractionation, catalepsia, you can mix all them together to create your own induction, you know. This one, you know that guy, he described the turbo induction. I just show you how efficient it can be with a patient. So just focus the attention, but there are things that are more interesting, you know, because you activate the parasympathetic activity with the pupils. Then you create a catalepsia, rigid catalepsia, then you test, and then you transform that sensation of rigidity, reinterpretation in sensation of loss of sensitivity to start the hypnotic anesthesia. Then I deepen, and then I start. And it was very good subject, eye suggestible. So after 2 or 3 appointments, we could make the extraction without anesthesia. And you see that there's almost 4 minutes of induction and deepening technique. So you can get to hypnoanesthesia very fast if the subject is highly suggestible. That's the secret. I finish in the evolution of dental hypnosis since the beginning of the 2000. There's a lot of books that were published. This one on the new hypnodontics is the last one. We talk about this. Things are going on, so I would say that hypnotic is a very strange discipline between art and science. And at the beginning you learn techniques, but in fact at the end you don't need more techniques than this. You just know how to deal with the trance, and you are, I would say, more hypnotic. And last time that I was with Marcello at the World Congress of Hypnosis in Cracovie, in Poland, I talked with Gabor Philo, and he's in Canada, he's hypnodontic, and he said, oh, you know, hypnodontic is a very lonely work. And that's true, you know. That's true. And that's my hand. In France, we have a cowboy called Lucky Luke, and at the end, he says, I'm a poor lonesome cowboy. And so that's my idea, is that it's a very fascinating work in the daily practice, but we are very lonely, in fact, in our office by making and keeping the patient. So my advice is that we must create society like this, we must interact together, because we talk with Marcello, we are not a lot, in fact, to practice daily hypnosis, dental hypnosis with our patient. And one day I was talking with John Butler, he's in London, and he said, you know, I've trained people for 50 years, and maybe hypnosis is a lost art, but if only one student will continue what I do, that's enough. And I was very enthusiastic 25 years ago about hypnosis, because I said, wow, I had the hypnotic fever about making it progress. And now I realize that, like history, it goes down, it goes up, it disappears. And we are just, we are giving what we know to the others, and we must exchange in order to exchange our patient for this kind of, I would say, heart, because it's really a heart, I think so. And so I hope you enjoy and you learn something about dental hypnosis, and you learn things for your practice. And there's so much we can do and we can practice about induction, but it takes so much time. Thank you. Thank you. So if we have any question, I know we are a little bit late, but... You're welcome. The ladies say that you have, if you want to scan, I don't know what it works, how it works, but